You know about full-time daycare? If some parents don't have time to take care of their children, they often choose to leave them in daycare. Every day after school, the daycare staff will pick up the kids and bring them back to the facility where they take care of their meals and daily routines. The children only go home on weekends or during holidays. When I was in elementary school, there was a time right before winter break when my parents had to go on a business trip out of town and wouldn't be back until the day before the holiday started, so I was temporarily placed in daycare. Kids from different elementary schools in Rice City were divided into several classes. Every night after we got back to daycare and had dinner, the teacher would first help us finish our homework. Then the dorm supervisor would gather us together to watch cartoons or play games. At the time, our favorite game was one we learned from watching TV. First, one kid would be chosen as the host and come up in front of everyone. Then, while saying, "Please do as I do," they would do something random, like strike a funny pose or perform some action. The other kids had to say, "I'll do just like you," while copying whatever the host did. If someone didn't do it well or couldn't do it at all, they'd be eliminated. Then the next round of imitation would start. The game would go on until all the kids were out or the host couldn't think of any harder moves, and then it would end. Everyone loved this game, especially me, since I was super competitive. I always had a blast playing it. But thinking back, I also noticed something else at the time. There was this strange boy about the same age as me. I didn't know which class he was in. I only ever saw him during the group playtime each day. He seemed really shy and introverted. I never saw him talk to anyone. He really liked playing this game too, but he always hid at the back of the crowd. Even though he tried hard to imitate, he usually got eliminated in the first few rounds. Normally, I wouldn't have had anything to do with him until that day when something terrible happened. That was my last day at after-school care. Because the school was needed for some activities, winter break started a day early. The after-school care teachers informed all the parents about this, so everyone was picked up and taken home early that morning. Since my parents were still out of town and wouldn't be back until later, I had to stay at after-school care for a while longer. Because of the early break, only a few teachers and staff members were still there. So while the teacher was seeing off the other students and their parents, I got bored and started wandering around the after-school care center. It was really quiet inside. Everyone must have already left. Eventually, I ended up in the room where we played games every night, planning to ask a teacher to turn on the TV for me. But just then, that strange boy from before suddenly showed up in the room out of nowhere. I was about to ignore him and leave the room, but the boy suddenly spoke up. "Want to play that game with me? This time, let me be the host." It was the first time I'd ever heard his voice. It was deep and raspy, which startled me. But since I was bored, I agreed to play his game anyway. "Please do as I do." As the boy spoke, he reached into the box full of toy blocks next to him and took one out. Then, right in front of me, he put the block into his mouth. "What's the big deal? Isn't this way too easy? I'll do it just like you did." I muttered dismissively and grabbed a block from the box, putting it in my mouth too. I thought I could win easily this time, but what the boy did next completely caught me off guard. "Please do as I do." He grabbed a handful of blocks from the box again and stuffed them into his mouth one after another. His mouth was gradually stretched wide by the blocks until it reached an unbelievable state. I stared at him in shock as he stuffed the last block into his mouth too. Then he looked at me again, his eyes filled with a certain expectation and maybe something else too. But that lifeless expression and pale face made me feel even more uneasy. In the end, I shifted my gaze to the box of blocks as well. "Do you think I'm an idiot? I'm not doing that." Sensing something was wrong, I immediately spat out the blocks and planned to get out of there. Seeing this, the boy reached out and grabbed my clothes. I remember his hand was ice cold, and I was so scared that I instinctively pushed him to the ground and ran out right away. I kept running until I reached the playground where I happened to run into my mom, who had come to pick me up. I didn't tell her what had just happened. I just looked back at the building, still a little shaken. Thankfully, the boy didn't come after me. After that, I never went to any after-school care centers or similar places again. I transferred between different elementary schools in Mifan City, but even after I grew up, I never saw that strange boy again. It was as if he never existed at all. After graduating from college and becoming a horror story writer, I still often think about this experience when I'm working on my stories. Maybe it's just my professional instincts, but I've started to feel more and more that this whole thing wasn't so simple. A strange boy of unknown origin was alone in a room with me, trying to get me to put something dangerous in my mouth. Luckily, I didn't follow his example back then. If something had gone wrong, suddenly something occurred to me. I immediately opened the local old news archives from when I was in elementary school, searching for keywords like daycare and boy, until I came across an old report. It was a photo of a child, the very same face of the boy I had seen at daycare. The report went like this. At the daycare where I had once briefly stayed, a boy, due to the teacher's negligence, was left alone in the playroom and stuffed a large number of building blocks into his mouth. By the time the teacher found him, he was already lying on the floor of the playroom, having suffocated to death because the blocks had blocked his airway. Reading this sent a chill down my spine. Could it be that the boy I met in the playroom that day was actually the ghost of a child who had died in an accident and become an earthbound spirit? Did he latch onto me, trying to get me to stuff building blocks into my mouth too, so I would die just like he did? I never imagined I'd experienced a supernatural event as a child. Thank goodness nothing happened to me back then. Just as I was about to close the webpage, still shaken, I suddenly noticed something else and immediately felt my scalp tingle. I saw that the report listed the date when the boy had died from suffocation, and it was exactly the same day as my last day at the daycare.